Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling, and you are watching the Raging Verbalist. I don't know if you stumbled upon this. You thought you were going to find some other kind of thing. By the way, this is the last time we're ever going to talk about this topic. The government is putting us out of this topic forever. I mean, another something killed by government intervention. If you're new to this, so we talk about a variety of topics, whatever of mine. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook. Facebook is a Position to Win book group, and also on Facebook, not Facebook, also on YouTube. And if you're doing that, if you don't know by now, you need to subscribe. You need to hit the like. You need to send me positive comments, positive waves. And now, without further ado, the better half, or the prettier half, at least, for Raging Verbalist is the ever lovely Sandra. Welcome, Sandra.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Well, you know, it's because of our topic. I'm wearing sunglasses. I know where you are. It is steel gray outside, and you guys are battening down the hatches for what will be another major fun storm, right?
Yeah, first snowfall of the year. So I'm excited. We need the moisture, so we'll take the snow, rain, however it comes.
There you go. All right. So, Sandra, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about daylight savings time. So given all the travel that you do, how does daylight savings time affect that?
Well, it affects it because it's always the case of where you're going somewhere and you have to be time zone aware. And if you're not, you can screw things up. My wife was in a writing group, and we were driving to this conference, and you're driving and you get out late out of the drive, and you're just driveway, and you're just kind of moving along, and there's this great Mexican restaurant, and no, I don't know the name of it, so I can't even toss it out there, but I'm thinking about it. Don't even know if they're still alive, but anyway, we're driving to Kingman, Arizona, which is the wide spot in the highway. If somebody in Kingman is unhappy with that characterization, I'm sorry. I've been there. Okay, so anyway, we're driving, and there's this Mexican restaurant that we really like. I can tell everybody, say, maybe this is like one of those kind of goose chases, or where people are walking around looking for Pokemon Go or something. Well, this is like Mexican restaurant across the street from the train station in Kingman, Arizona. So we're driving. Now we're tired, we're hungry, but we have guacamole on our minds. We're ready to go, and we arrived there without realizing that, of course, because the time change had changed, and Arizona doesn't change, that we missed the restaurant by an hour. Yikes! So yeah, it affects travel like that, and it always creates a whole bunch of mismatches when you're traveling around the country and the world. So that's one of my issues of that. So it affects that, and especially if people are not good with time, and who you are out there, and then you get to meetings and you're kind of, oh, it's so early, oh, it's so late, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. And jet lag is like a real thing. I got it, but I can just tell you that this is just one of those realities of life. Yeah, so it affects me, and affects people I know.
All right. Have you ever missed a flight because of daylight savings time?
Well, once again, Arizona is the culprit, and flying points east, and hadn't. This is before now I have almost an exact surefire thing. By the way, if you're sitting there smugly looking at this and saying, John, all I can tell you is, hey, this never bothers me. I'm always on time. Everything's always updated. I can tell you that, well, there are lots of things that don't adjust electronically. So if you're sitting there saying, well, but my watch does it. Well, yeah, except my Fitbit doesn't do it automatically. You got to go in and manually change it. Hello, what is this? The 19 nevers? Come on. By the way, I've put in a kind of a little ticket into Fitbit, and they sent back this really long thing about how I could change it, and and all of that stuff. But I said, hey, if it doesn't do it automatically, it doesn't do it. So I guess this is my equivalent of, for those of you remember VCRs. some people are like, what's that? And they would always be blinking 12, 12, 12. It's that same thing. So yeah, so I land in Phoenix, and I think I've got extra time, and I'm just, dawdling along. Hey, everything's cool, all that stuff, and roll up to the gate slowly. And the woman goes, "Are you on this flight? We've been paging you." And I went, oh, really? She goes, "Yeah, we're leaving right now." So I had to very quickly, and I was traveling with my wife, Becky, and this time again, I had to very quickly get her out of wherever she was at. I think she was in a gift shop or something, and say, "We got to go, because we got to go right now. There is no extra hour of time." So yes, almost missed a flight. Never, ever really missed a flight, but that one was pretty close. And today I would have missed it, because they don't wait around. They don't page people. They're just like, "Hey, you didn't show up, tough shit."
All right. Sounds like, yeah, interesting times. But Arizona needs to fall in line, I think. All right. So what's the history of daylight savings time?
Well, we have people in Arizona, so let's
My brother's there. He can deal.
He's the clock master. Okay. And again, Arizona, I mean, and I don't want to, give away free copy, but, Arizona is a state that, they sell tourists on erosion. Oh, they call it the Grand Canyon, but it's erosion, people. It's erosion. That's what it is. It was my dad saying, "Hey, you left the hose on, and got all the dirt going out into the street. Scrape it all back and toss it over here." Erosion. Anyway, well, so daylight savings time has been around for a long time. So I guess instead of calling it the Grand Canyon State, we could call it the Great Erosion State. Probably wouldn't have as many tourists show up. Which way is it in the Great Erosion? So never know what you're going to get when you tune into these things. Because I don't know. Sandra doesn't know. We
go with it.
So daylight savings time has been going on for a long time, and Benjamin Franklin, and everybody should know that, and of course, when people say dead presidents, I always like to point out that, some of the people on the U.S. currency are not presidents, one of which is Benjamin Franklin, and he's, of course, on the $100 bill, which, my favorite is walking into a pizza place here in Colorado, because I'm on the road, and it has a big sign that says, "We no longer accept $100 bills because of the number of counterfeit bills." Yes. So anyway, Benjamin Franklin's on a $100 bill. But Benjamin Franklin said in the 1700s, I want to read it, but I don't want to get it wrong. So, okay, listen to this. Daylight savings time is the equivalent of cutting off the bottom of a blanket and then sewing it to the top because your blanket is too short. In other words, it's a fabrication of the mind. So that's daylight savings time is talking about since the 1700s. And also that, in 1966, the Department of Transportation was formed, and the Department of Transportation took over, making sure that we had standardized times. And this was primarily for trains. Trains were still big, by the way, for those of you who don't know that. And the problem is that they want to make sure there's standardization, and then daylight savings time got in the mix. Now, states like Arizona said, we're opting out of this thing, and all of that. So that's where it started. In this country, it was the 1960s, and it was Department of Transportation, and then we got to daylight savings time. Now, they've been playing with it. I mean, I know when we had the energy shocks many years ago, they said, "Hey, we'll just go to daylight savings time earlier, because that way we'll have less energy consumption." Again, we're cutting off the bottom of the blanket. Okay, so that's my short history. It's not an exhaustive one, and no, it'd be more like writing a pamphlet than writing a book, as far as I'm concerned.
All right. What about the rumors about ending daylight savings time?
Well, luckily, and this is why I said earlier, and it wasn't hyperbole, it wasn't a stem winder, as they say, it wasn't a hook put on that turns out to not be true, but it is true, which is in March of 2020, the US Senate voted unanimously. For those of you who are around the globe, may say, well, yeah, okay, big deal. But they voted unanimously. It took several years. I'm sure lots of debates. I don't know if they had, researchers and circadian rhythms and, all of that, but they voted to end daylight savings time. So that's why I said this topic is going to be barred, ended, kaput, done, because this is going to be the last time we have daylight savings time, because in 2023, it is done. It's, we're going to not do daylight savings time. It's going to be over. Now, who knows? By the way, they called it the Sunshine Protection Act, hence the sunglasses, because I don't know if that means that they're going to leave the ball on longer, because at night somebody turns the ball off. Also, if you're out there and you're wondering about your Protection Act and what you need to do, well, I have something for you, especially now that daylight savings time is going to end. You're not going to be able to go out and do all those crazy things that you're doing before. So what you're going to have is more time to read. And what you should be reading, of course, is this. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. Just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it. Position to win. So you're going to get an extra hour coming up just in a few days. And that means that you're going to have another hour to be able to read. So no excuses, people. Now, it's available as a physical book. As you see, I'm holding it. I'm not holding a hologram. I'm not holding a virtual. I don't have a meta book. This is a real book. Now it's not heavy enough to it'll kill small insects, but it's got a really tough exoskeleton, probably isn't going to work. Also, it's available in Kindle, Nook, Apple iBooks. Also, you can go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com, send in a request, and hey, I'll sign it and send it to you. Now, also, there's Remote Work for a Better World, which is how to be smart about doing remote work. Most companies are not smart about it at all. So that's what you can do with your extra time. And who wouldn't want to learn how to not have your business go broke? All right. With that, Sandra, what's our next question? Where do we go from here?
All right. So I know you have international clients. So how does the whole daylight savings time affect people around the world?
So if you're not familiar with this technical term, you may want to write it down. Some people may be offended, but it's true. And that is that there is essentially a giant shitstorm that goes on because, like, the people in New Zealand changed in October because, of course, they're Southern Hemisphere. Australia changes differently. The UK changes differently. Now, the Canadians, are put upon because they don't have time connect independence, so they go along with whatever the U.S. is. So I'm sure when the Senate voted, there were some Canadians that were weeping for the loss of this because they will match up to this. But it affects you because you need to keep track of where these people are. I have had many coaching sessions, consulting sessions, webinars where people didn't show up, and the points that they don't show up are based upon that the time changed and they didn't, and they lost out. So it affects it pretty incredibly, and it seems like it just is an ongoing nagging problem. So, and it doesn't seem like it's going to get a lot better.
All right. So we have 24-hour days. So does that mean that we have only 24 time zones?
Well, this will shock you, and this is why we should probably put disclaimers on some of these. But currently, there are listed 200 different time zones around the globe. It doesn't mean that it takes 200 hours for the globe to spin. I mean, some people will conflate the two, but there are officially recognized 200 time zones. I'm sure that there are other places that there are not even, looking at those official ones. But yes, there are 200 time zones, which means that if you have customers all around the globe, make sure that you know what their real time is. And you got to make sure that you stay on top of that, because it's really easy. Last thing you want to do is miss a meeting or miss something and not figure out where this is at. in my own case, I have all kinds of people that I have to deal with, and that really kind of leads to some issues.
All right. And what's the best way to keep track of customers and time zones?
Well, the best way is the way Joseph Stalin did it, which is he got so pissed off because the Soviet Union was in 11 time zones that he basically made all meetings Moscow time. So it didn't matter what it was in Vladivostok, 11 hours away. You had to live on Moscow time to talk to the premier there. So unless you can convince everybody to live on your time zone, highly unlikely, then what you have to do is you have to do what I do, which is always make sure that whenever you're keeping a profile of somebody, that you know what time zone they're in, and then you keep track of that. So whenever I'm doing anything with a client, we always have an understanding what it is. You need to absolutely, it's a lot of absolutely, make sure that you always include the time zone that you are living in or the time zone that you're putting the meeting on, and not get sloppy and just say 10 o'clock a.m. Well, who knows what that means, because with 200 time zones, there's 200 different 10 a.m.s. So I would say that that's the most important thing. It's interesting because when I have said this to people who are definitely techie people, what they don't say is that, like, I challenge you to go find where and the databases, that you use, the customer CRM stuff doesn't have a place to put in time zone. I have not seen a lot of them that say that. They may have, there may be some that do it. That would be smart, but I can tell you that a lot of them don't. And then I can also tell you that Google Calendar has a tough time dealing with different time zones, because when I'm going to meet somebody at 10 a.m. in this case Mountain Time. Well, when I put that appointment together, I was in Pacific Time, and then you have to make sure that you tell the mavens at Google Calendar or whatever it is about this. So yeah, it is a big deal and it's a pain in the ass, but make sure you know everybody's time zone and what it means and how to figure it out.
Right. And how do you keep your time straight?
So I discovered a almost foolproof way to do this. I have traveled all over the place, and it always astonished me that when somebody would say, "Oh, I called back home," especially like if you're in a place like I was in Italy, somebody said, "I called home and I woke my wife up at some crazy time in the middle of the night," because they didn't do the time change. So my method of solving this is decidedly low tech, but it is a absolute easiest way to do it. And that is, I wear not one, but two watches. So when I wear two watches, and now for all of you who say, "But John, all you need to do is look at your phone." Yeah, except that the phone doesn't have a 2 time zone function. Too many things that you have to do, too many things that you have to work through, and it is really annoying. See, all I have to do to know what our current time zone is back at my house is I look on my right wrist, and it tells me my home time no matter where I am in the world, and therefore I never call up in the middle of the night and put that in place. So the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, is to have 2 watches, and that works. Now, I had to figure out how to alter this a little bit, because again, my Fitbit quit auto changing like it was supposed to. So now I have to do some more steps, but to me, that's the easiest way to do it. The whole point of this is that, yes, the daylight savings time is going to come to an end. We're going to have the Sunshine Protection Act. They're going to leave the big ball in the sky on in a more stable way that they believe. And I'm going to tell you, people are still going to screw up time zones. Figure out a way to keep track of it, because if you're going to be doing business in this world, and it surprised me when we were doing the research for this, 200 time zones seems like a lot. So what I would suggest each and every one of you do is make sure that you make every day, every minute, every second count. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us here at the Raging Verbalist, where every week, hopefully, we present you with a thought-provoking topic or area or interesting factoids Also, if you go on the Facebook group for Position to Win book and you want to make comments, you want to put something in there. Also, you may want to suggest something because, as you will discover, I have an opinion about everything. So this is John Paul Mendoza, Dr. Speed Selling, and for myself and the ever lovely Sandra, Raging Verbalist number 151 is a wrap, and we'll see you next week on the change of times, because Sunday it changes. My suggestion is before you go to bed, you change your clocks, you change your stuff, because this stuff does not auto change. So with that, have a happy new fall back, and we'll be seeing you in the future.